My name is Jordan Riley. I'm 30 years old, and I can tell you the exact moment my engagement ended. It wasn't when my fiance, Lucas, started answering late night texts with that stupid little half smile. It wasn't when his ex girlfriend reappeared in our lives like some badly written rom com subplot. It was when I took off my engagement ring, set it on our kitchen counter, and photographed it like it was a product I'd never touch again. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I live in Denver. I'm a financial analyst, the kind of person who spends her days staring at spreadsheets, stress testing portfolios, and trying to make chaos behave with formulas. When I met Lucas 4 years ago, he felt like the opposite of everything in my work: soft where my days were sharp, spontaneous where my life was scheduled. He's 28, a freelance graphic designer, the kind of man who can sit in a coffee shop for 6 hours and somehow call it work because he's tweaking color palettes for a craft brewery or a yoga studio. He grew on me slowly, first as the charming guy my friends swore I'd hate, then as the person I couldn't imagine a week without. Last Christmas, he proposed in front of a glowing pine tree at Union Station, kneeling in the middle of a crowd, ring box in hand, cheeks pink from the cold. I said yes while strangers clapped and someone filmed us on their phone. It was embarrassingly perfect. We were supposed to get married this October. The wedding planning was stressful in the ordinary ways: deposits, spreadsheets, color schemes, venue booked, catering paid, invitations already mailed. My inbox turned into a battlefield of invoices and just following up emails. Through it all, Lucas seemed happy, excited even. He loved posting engagement photos and close-up ring shots for his followers. He'd tilt my hand toward the light and say, "Hold still, babe. My audience needs this sparkle." I thought the attention was silly but harmless. At least he seemed proud to be engaged to me. Then, 2 months ago, Brooke came back. I'd heard her name before, never bitterly, always carefully neutral. Brooke was his ex-girlfriend from college at CU Boulder. They dated for 3 years, broke up when she moved to Portland for some startup job, and then that was it. A closed chapter. Or so I thought. One Thursday evening, Lucas came home smelling like espresso and rain, shrugging off his jacket. "You'll never guess who I ran into," he said, rummaging through the fridge. "Your student loans?" I replied. He snorted. "Brooke, at that coffee shop on 17th. She just moved back from Portland." I remember feeling a tiny, brief flicker in my chest. Not quite jealousy, more like a prickle of alertness. "Oh," I said, keeping my voice even. "How was that?" "Fine. We just caught up. She's doing some startup-adjacent design thing, still figuring it out." He waved his hand like it didn't matter. "Relax, Jord, it was totally random." I nodded. Things like that happen. Cities are small in the strangest ways. Except then she started showing up everywhere. The following Saturday, we went to our usual farmer's market. Same coffee stand, same bakery stall, same couple selling overpriced microgreens. We were picking out peaches when a voice behind us chirped, "Lucas?" We turned, and there she was, Brooke. She was exactly the kind of woman Instagram loves. Messy bun that somehow looked intentional, white t-shirt, vintage jeans, camera slung around her neck. She smiled at me, then at him, like she'd stumbled into a pleasant surprise. "This is wild," Lucas said, laughing. We ran into each other again. He introduced us. I shook her hand. Her grip was warm, confident. "Jordan, right?" she said. "He posts about you all the time. I feel like I already know you." I smiled, because that's what you do. We chatted, surface-level stuff about Denver, markets, work. Then she drifted off with a casual, "See you around," like the city was a small campus and we were all still 20. On the walk back to the car, I nudged Lucas. "Twice in a week, huh? Denver really is tiny." He laughed. "Don't be weird about it. We just happen to like the same spots." "Sure," I said. I didn't push. I told myself that if I started spiraling over coincidences, I'd become the controlling fiancé from every horror story on Reddit. Except the coincidences multiplied. A week later, Lucas signed up for a new climbing gym. I had too much work, so he went alone the first few sessions. One night, he came home flushed and energized. "You'll never believe who's a member there." I didn't even have to ask. "Brooke?" I said. He grinned. "I know, right? She joined a couple of weeks ago. Denver's a village." His design meetup? Same story. Monthly hangout at some local brewery, and suddenly, Brooke was on the guest list, sliding into conversations, laughing at old jokes I wasn't part of. Every time I mentioned how odd it was, I got the same lines. "Don't be weird about it, Jord." "Relax, it's just Brooke. We're friends." Seriously, you sound paranoid. We just run in the same circles. That phrase, "don't be weird about it," became his reflex. Each time he said it, something inside me shrank, then hardened. Then the late night texts started. We'd be on the couch watching a movie, my legs over his laptop balanced on the armrest. His phone would light up. A small smile. Fast thumbs. Screen flipped face down. "Who's that?" I'd ask casually. "Just Brooke," he'd say, like that answered everything. "She's having a rough time readjusting to Denver. I'm just being a good friend." A good friend who was texting your fiancé at 10 p.m. on a Friday. 2 weeks before everything blew up, Lucas canceled our dinner reservations half an hour before we were supposed to leave. "Babe, I'm so sorry," he said, grabbing his keys. "Brooke's having a panic attack over this job interview. She asked if I could talk it through with her in person." "Is she alone?" I asked. "Yeah, she's just freaking out. She needs someone who knows her. You get it, right?" What I got was that my yes meant he didn't have to feel guilty. A few days later, he ducked out early from a friend's birthday party because Brooke's apartment lease was falling through, and she needed help figuring out where to go next. Each time, I'd say some version of, "This feels like a pattern," and each time he'd say some version of, "You don't trust me," or "You're trying to control who I'm friends with." "I trust you," I'd reply. "I don't trust this." Same thing, he'd say, and then he'd leave. And then came the night that split my life into before and after. Lucas went out with his old college group. Just the guys, and a couple of people from back in the day, he told me. He specifically mentioned Brooke in a breezy, "see, I'm not hiding anything" way. "You sure you don't want to come?" he asked. I had a mountain of work and a headache. "No, it's fine. Go. Have fun." I stayed home, ordered takeout, and played co-op games with my friend Trevor until about midnight. By 12:30, I was in bed, phone on the nightstand, half asleep. At 2:07 a.m., my phone started buzzing. I blinked at the screen. A cascade of notifications, Instagram tags, likes, comments. Lucas had posted a carousel from the night out. The first picture was harmless. Lucas and 3 friends at a rooftop bar, city lights blurred behind them, everyone mid-laugh. Second photo, larger group shot in a booth, drinks raised. Classic college reunion energy. Third photo made my stomach flip. Lucas was in that same booth, but now he was sitting back, legs spread slightly, an empty glass on the table. Brooke was on his lap. Not perched, not jokingly hovering. Settled. Her head tilted back, laughing at something near his ear. His arm wrapped loosely around her waist, fingers resting on her hip like they'd been there 100 times before. The caption read, "Sometimes you miss the old days." I stared at it for a long time. My heart didn't race. It just dropped and stayed somewhere in my feet. The comments were already rolling in. "Cutest couple, miss when you guys were together. Still ship you two TBH." Not one person mentioned that Lucas was engaged. Not one person mentioned me. I scrolled through the likes, the usernames, the tiny hearts stacking on top of each other, like proof that I was the only one who thought this was wrong. I texted him. "Me. We need to talk about that photo. Seen 2:11 a.m. No response. The little typing at bubble never appeared. He didn't reply until 8:03 a.m. "Lucas, just got home, so tired. Talk later?" Later. We stood in the kitchen, sunlight catching on the ring he'd given me. I held up my phone. "That photo from last night," I said. "You and Brooke." He sighed, already annoyed. "Jordan, it was just a fun picture. We were reminiscing. Don't make it weird." You're sitting with your ex-girlfriend on your lap, 3 months before our wedding, telling Instagram you miss the old days? How is that not weird? You're being paranoid. It was innocent. Everyone was drunk. It's not that deep. "What's innocent about it?" I asked quietly. He rolled his eyes, grabbed his yoga mat. "I'm going to class. We can talk about this later if you're going to keep being dramatic." The door closed behind him. The house went quiet. I sat there with my coffee growing cold, staring at the ring on my finger. Numbers floated through my mind. What it cost, how many hours I'd worked to afford it, how many months we'd spent talking about center stones and settings and forever. In finance, there's this concept, sunk cost. Money you've already spent, hours you can't get back. You're not supposed to let sunk cost trap you in a bad investment. You cut your losses before they drag down everything else. I looked at that ring and realized I might be staring at my own sunk cost. Later came and he wasn't there. Later always came with excuses. So I went upstairs to our bedroom. On his side of the dresser was the small velvet box he'd used when he proposed. Inside, along with some spare cufflinks and a tangled bracelet, was my engagement ring. He'd asked me to take it off the night before, just in case it got lost in the bar. I picked it up. On my hand, it had symbolized a future. In my palm, it just looked like an object. Expensive, cold, detached from any meaning I could still believe in. I went back downstairs, cleared a space on the kitchen counter, and set the ring in a patch of soft morning light. I wiped a tiny fingerprint from the band with the corner of my shirt. Then I took out my phone and started taking pictures. From above, from the side. Close-up of the stone catching light. I'd watched Lucas chase that kind of perfection for Instagram. Now I was doing it for myself. I opened Facebook Marketplace. Title: Engagement ring for sale. Excellent condition. Description: 1.2 carat diamond, white gold setting. Purchased December 2023. Excellent condition. Barely worn outside the house. Includes original certificate and appraisal. Asking $8,500. Below retail for quick sale. Wedding's off. Apparently he misses the old days. My thumb hovered over the post button. My heart hammered, not from doubt, but from the knowledge that once I did this, there was no going back to pretending things were fine. For months, I had been gaslit into silence, told not to be weird, not to be paranoid, not to be dramatic. Private conversations had gotten me nowhere. So I stopped having private conversations. I hit post. Within seconds, my phone buzzed. One message: "Is this still available?" Another: "Hey, what happened?" Then a notification that someone had shared my listing. I watched the little red dots stack up, awareness spreading through our social circle like spilled ink. And as more notifications came in, one thought settled heavy and calm in my chest. If he can declare to the world that he misses his ex, the thing about posting something explosive online is that you think you'll have a moment to breathe before it detonates. You don't. Within 10 minutes, my phone turned into a live wire. Ding. Is the ring negotiable? Ding. Wait, what happened to the wedding? Ding. Girl, are you okay? Call me. The listing started getting shares. First a handful, then a few dozen. People I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly resurfacing in my notifications like ghosts who'd been waiting for a reason to step back into my life. I watched the numbers climb in numb fascination. The analyst part of my brain noted reach, engagement, potential buyer conversion, while the fiancé part of my brain sat somewhere far away, hugging her knees and watching her future burn. I didn't answer anyone at first. I just let the story write itself in comment sections and private group chats. By late morning, the post had been shared 47 times. That's when the front door slammed. "Jordan!" Lucas's voice tore through the house. Heavy footsteps, a streak of motion, and then he was in the kitchen, phone in hand, face flushed an angry shade of pink. Angry. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he shouted, holding up his screen. My listing glared back at me from his Facebook app. "Take this down. Now." I stayed seated at the table, my hands wrapped around a mug of cold coffee. "Good morning to you too," I said. "Don't." He cut himself off, jaw clenched. "Don't do that calm thing right now. You can't just put our personal business on the internet like this. My mom is freaking out. My friends are blowing up my phone. Everyone thinks we broke up." I tilted my head. "Did we not?" His eyes flashed. "Of course not. You're overreacting." "Right," I said. "Silly me." Posting a picture with your ex on your lap and a caption about missing the old days 3 months before our wedding isn't a breakup move. The breakup move is me refusing to pretend it's normal. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing a tight line across the kitchen. "It was a joke, Jordan," he snapped. "We were drunk. Everyone was playing around. You're making this way bigger than it needs to be. Lucas, the comments called you two the cutest couple and said they miss when you were together. Not one person mentioned you're engaged. Not one person remembered me at all. Do you have any idea what that feels like?" He stopped pacing, looking at me like I was speaking another language. "People say dumb stuff online," he said. "Who cares what they commented? You know I'm with you." "Do I?" He scoffed. "You cannot just sell my ring without telling me." "Technically," I said quietly, "it's my ring. I paid for it. And technically, we're not married yet, so legally it belongs to me." His laugh was humorless. "You sound insane right now." "Oh, I'm insane?" I said, finally standing. My heart pounded, but my voice came out sharp and steady. "You've spent months canceling our plans for Brooke's panic attacks and lease emergencies, texting her late at night, letting her sit in your lap on social media like you're auditioning for a nostalgia reboot. I call it what it is, and suddenly I'm insane?" It wasn't like that, he said quickly. Then what was it like? He opened and closed his mouth, searching for a version of the story that would make him look less guilty. We're friends, he said at last. She's going through a hard time. I was being supportive. That's it. In her lap. He rolled his eyes. God, you're so literal. It was a moment, a snapshot. It doesn't mean anything. If it didn't mean anything, I asked, why did you caption it, "Sometimes you miss the old days"? Silence stretched between us. He looked away first. Delete the post, he said finally. The marketplace listing, the status, take it all down. We can talk about this like adults, but you making a spectacle out of it is cruel and vindictive. Cruel, I repeated. You think I'm cruel? Yes, he snapped. My mom is calling me in tears. Your little stunt is humiliating for both of us. I thought about all the nights he'd walked out our door with his phone face down and his ex's name lighting it up. Thought about how many times I'd been told not to make it weird. You're right, I said softly. It is humiliating, just not for the reasons you think. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, swore under his breath. I'm going to my mom's, he said. We'll talk when you've calmed down and taken this crap off the internet. I'm not taking it down, I replied. I'm done keeping your behavior a private crisis only I have to hold. He stared at me like he didn't recognize the woman standing in front of him. Then he turned and walked out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the glass. The house fell quiet again. A few minutes later, my own phone started ringing. I recognized the name instantly. Linda, Lucas's mom. I let it ring once more before answering. Hi, Linda. Jordan, honey, she said, voice thin and rattled. Can you tell me what's happening? Lucas is here, and he's not making any sense. I closed my eyes. What has he told you? That you had a fight about a photo, she said carefully. That you're upset about Brooke being back in town, and that you posted his engagement ring for sale to teach him a lesson? Teach him a lesson. Of course, that's how he'd framed it. Linda, I said, have you seen the post? Yes, she admitted, and the comments and the shares, but I want to hear your side. So I told her. I told her about the coincidences that weren't coincidences, about Brooke showing up at the farmer's market, the climbing gym, the brewery, about the late-night texts, the panic attack over a job interview, the lease falling through, about how every time I said I felt uncomfortable, I was told not to be weird, not to be paranoid. I described the Instagram photo in detail, the way Brooke's body rested against his, the caption, the comments that erased me like I'd never existed. On the other end, Linda went quiet. I could hear her breathing, steady but heavy. I had no idea Brooke was back in the picture, she said finally. Lucas hasn't mentioned her once. All he talks about is the wedding. Flowers, cake, how excited he is to see you walk down the aisle. Something inside me twisted. That's the thing, I said. He's excited to be engaged on paper, on Instagram, in front of his family. But when it comes to boundaries with his ex, I don't exist. Another pause. Would you consider taking the post down? Linda asked gently. Just until you two sort this out. This is a lot for everyone to see. Her voice wasn't demanding. It was pleading. Part of me ached for her. This wasn't the future she wanted for her son any more than it was for me. I know it's messy, I said, but private conversations weren't working. Every time I brought up Brooke, I was made to feel crazy. At some point, I needed reality to exist somewhere outside my own head. I understand, she murmured. I do. This isn't like him. I thought of the Lucas she knew. Funny, attentive, dutiful son. The Lucas who called her every Sunday. The Lucas who posted perfectly curated engagement photos. And then I thought of the Lucas who looked at me in our kitchen that morning and called me insane for reacting to his public intimacy with another woman. I think there are parts of him you don't see, I said softly. Linda sighed, the kind of sound that seemed to collapse years of hope. Whatever happens, she said, I want you to know. I've always been grateful for how you love my son, and I'm sorry it's come to this. Me too, I said, really. After we hung up, I stared at my phone for a long time. The listing was still up. The comments were growing. A woman named Karen had messaged me asking about the certificate and whether I'd be willing to meet halfway on price for her daughter. I actually laughed, a small hollow sound. Somewhere in the middle of my heartbreak, business was still business. Another call came in, different name, one I recognized from Lucas's stories but had never personally spoken to. Emma, see you, friends. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Jordan? Hi, it's Emma. I'm one of Lucas's friends from college. I know, I said. We've met once, I think, at that trivia night. Yeah, she exhaled. Listen, I saw your post about the ring and the comments, and I feel weird calling you, but I think you deserve to know what really happened on Saturday. A cold line traced down my spine. I know what happened, I said. I saw the photo. I mean, before the photo, she said quietly, and after it, the stuff you didn't see. I sank slowly into a chair. Okay, I'm listening. Emma hesitated, as if weighing how much trouble the truth might cause. Lucas told everyone you were overreacting, she said. But from where we were sitting, it looked a lot more like he was testing how far he could push things with Brooke while still having you waiting at home. My hand tightened around the phone. And Jordan, she added, voice dropping, that photo, that caption, it wasn't an accident. Not for him. He knew exactly what kind of message it would send. The room felt suddenly smaller. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Tell me everything, I said. Then I can declare to the world that I'm done pretending I don't see it. Tell me everything. The line was quiet for a moment, except for the faint background noise of a car engine. Emma must have been calling from her parked car, debating this call the entire drive. Okay, she said finally. Here's what you didn't see. I braced myself. The night at the bar wasn't some random reunion, she began. It wasn't organic. It wasn't spontaneous. Brooke didn't show up. She was invited. I blinked. By who? A beat. Lucas, she said. He texted her the location. My stomach twisted. He told me she asked where they were going, I said slowly. She did, Emma replied, but because he told her to. He messaged her earlier that evening asking if she was free. He said he wanted her to meet the group again, like old times. Old times. There it was again. He told me it was a coincidence, I whispered. Emma scoffed quietly. Nothing about Saturday was a coincidence. I swallowed, throat tight. So she didn't just walk in? No, Emma said. She walked straight to our booth because she already knew where he was sitting. The image formed in my mind. Brooke weaving through the crowded bar with the ease of someone following a dropped pin on a map. Lucas rising at the exact moment she arrived. Their embrace. The glow in his eyes Lucas hadn't had for me in months. What happened after she arrived? I asked. Emma exhaled. Honestly, Lucas forgot we existed. I felt that like physical pressure against my chest. For the first hour, it was just the two of them, she continued. They turned inward the second she sat down, talking about college, that road trip they took, inside jokes, stuff the rest of us weren't part of. It felt like watching a private world we didn't have permission to enter. So he ignored you all? I asked. He didn't ignore us, she corrected. He tolerated us. Ouch. And Brooke? I asked quietly. Thriving, Emma said. She was glowing, leaning close to him, touching his arm. You could tell she was comfortable, too comfortable, and Lucas didn't pull back, not once. There was a long silence. I stared at the table, tracing invisible lines with my finger. Why didn't anyone say anything to him? I asked. My voice surprised me. It cracked a little, something raw slipping through. What were we supposed to say? Emma said gently. Lucas is a grown man, and we didn't want to be the ones to blow up his relationship. So instead, I murmured, you watched him blow it up himself. Emma winced audibly. Yes. And I'm sorry, Jordan. We were all uncomfortable. We kept exchanging looks like, what is he doing? But he didn't hide it. He kept it all right in front of us, like he wanted someone to see. My heart sank. Brooke sitting on his lap, she said, wasn't a silly joke. It wasn't impulsive. It was the escalation of what had been happening all night. I felt myself go very still. Escalation? Yeah, Emma said. About 20 minutes before that picture, Lucas pulled her into some joke he was telling, and she slid onto his knees like it was the most natural thing in the world. He didn't push her away. He didn't even flinch. My stomach churned. He didn't look surprised, she said. He looked content. It felt like someone had dropped a stone through my ribs. And her posting the picture? I asked. Did he know? Emma hesitated. He posed, she said, like he wanted it online. The breath left my lungs. For a few seconds, all I heard was static on my end of the line. Jordan, Emma said softly, I think he wanted you to see it. I closed my eyes. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness, from clarity. Cold, brutal clarity. Why? I whispered. Why would he want to hurt me like that? Emma sighed. I think he's been struggling with the idea of getting married. And instead of dealing with it, he started trying to sabotage things without technically cheating. You know, just enough to feel something. Not enough to get caught. I asked the question I'd been terrified of. Do you think he still has feelings for her? Another pause. Then, I think he misses the version of himself he was when he was with her. There it was. Not about Brooke, not about me. Not about either of us, really. It was about Lucas running from adulthood into the arms of a younger version of himself. The worst part? That made perfect sense. I should have told you sooner, Emma said. But honestly, when she posted that photo, we thought you'd see everything we saw, that you'd finally understand. I do, I said quietly. I understand perfectly. A message alert popped up on my phone, someone else asking if the ring was still available. I almost laughed. Jordan, Emma added suddenly. There's something else. Brooke wasn't just showing up randomly these past few months. Lucas told her what climbing gym he joined, what brewery his meetups were at, where he and you went on Saturdays. My eyes opened slowly. He told her? I said. Why? Because he wanted her there, Emma said. He made the coincidences happen. The floor seemed to tilt under me. Emma's voice softened. I know this hurts, but please listen. None of this is your fault. You weren't imagining anything. You weren't paranoid. You weren't dramatic. Lucas has been controlling the narrative to keep you off balance. Nausea rose in my throat. He kept telling me not to be weird about it. That's because he needed you to stay quiet, she said gently. He needed you to doubt your own instincts. My fingers tightened around the phone. My instincts, that thing he mocked, dismissed, belittled, had been right every single time. Emma hesitated before adding, I don't know what you're planning to do, but for whatever it's worth, all of us saw this coming. We just hoped we were wrong. You weren't, I told her. None of you were. We hung up after a few more hushed apologies. I set my phone down and stared out the window. The truth wasn't a sudden slap in the face. It was a long, painful unfurling of everything I'd tried to rationalize, soften, excuse. Lucas hadn't just been careless. He hadn't just been nostalgic. He hadn't been confused. He had been curating this. Curating opportunities for Brooke to appear. Curating explanations for why he needed to spend time with her. Curating stories that made me the jealous, controlling fiancé. Curating a public moment that let him slip into the past without saying a word to my face. And worst of all, he curated my silence, until I broke it. A notification buzzed, a message preview appeared. From Brooke. Jordan, I saw the ring post. I think we should talk. You deserve to know what Lucas has been telling me too. My heart thudded once, hard. The woman everyone expected me to hate was reaching out, and something about that told me I had only seen half the truth. Brooke chose a coffee shop on Colfax for our meeting. Neutral ground. Loud enough that nothing would feel intimate. Quiet enough that nothing would be missed. I arrived 5 minutes early. She arrived exactly on time. No makeup. Hair in a low bun. Fidgeting with the strap of her camera bag. Not the confident, glowing Brooke from Lucas's Instagram photos. She looked tired. Jordan? She asked softly. Yes. We sat. 2 steaming mugs between us. My pulse thudded in my neck. Hers showed in the way she kept adjusting her necklace, a nervous habit. Thank you for meeting me, she began. I nodded, careful, guarded. You said I deserved to know what Lucas told you. She swallowed. For a moment, she stared into her coffee like she needed strength from the steam. I'll just start from the beginning, she said, because I owe you honesty, all of it. I braced myself. Lucas messaged me first, she said, back in March, right after I moved back to Denver. I froze. He told me you ran into each other at a coffee shop. Her eyes flicked up. Regret softened the edges. We did, but only because he knew I was there. He messaged me earlier saying he had a feeling we were nearby. My chest tightened. Then he asked if I wanted to grab lunch sometime, catch up, and we did. She looked down again. I shouldn't have. I knew he was engaged. He never hid that. Okay, I said, voice steady. And after that? After that, she said, he started opening up. At least, that's what I thought was happening. I waited. He told me, Brooke continued, that you two had been having problems for months, that he felt judged, claustrophobic, that you didn't support his work, that you thought his freelance design career was childish. I blinked, hard. I've never said that. Not once. She nodded quickly. I know that now. I didn't then. He said you pressured him about wedding stuff, that you wanted everything perfect and dismissed his ideas. We agreed on almost everything, I whispered. That's not what he told me, she said gently. A sour nausea rose in my throat. What else? I asked. She took a shaky breath. He said you get jealous whenever he talks to other women, that you don't like his friends, that you were becoming controlling. The word hit like a slap. My ears rang. He told me he didn't know if he wanted to get married, Brooke went on, that he felt trapped, that the wedding was happening too fast. He proposed, I said, my voice cracking for the first time. I know, she whispered. He said that you pushed for the date, that he wasn't ready. I stared at her. We had chosen the date together. How many lies had he stacked on top of each other to create this alternate universe? Brooke, I said slowly, did he ever tell you I was upset about how often you were around? Her expression flinched. Yes, he said you were becoming paranoid, that you accused him of cheating, and that you hated me. I didn't even know you, I said numbly. She nodded. He said he was trying to balance both relationships. For a moment, the room swayed around me. I placed a hand on the table to steady myself. Brooke, the emergencies, the panic attack, the job interview, the lease falling through, were any of those real? Her face twisted. What? No, I never had a job interview. I've been fully employed since I got back. And my lease? I've been in the same apartment since April. I never had a crisis, ever. He told me you were falling apart, I whispered. And he told me you were falling apart, she replied quietly. We just sat there for a moment, two women holding the same shattered puzzle from different angles, finally realizing it formed the same picture. A picture of him. Tell me about Saturday night, I said. Brooke exhaled. Her fingers tightened around her mug. Lucas told me he missed me. My breath sucked in. When? When I was on his lap, she said, cheeks flushing. He whispered it in my ear, exactly like that. I miss you. My heart cracked, but not in the way heartbreak usually feels. It wasn't sadness. It was betrayal giving way to clarity. What did you say? I asked. I told him, she said, voice trembling, that he was engaged, that he needed to figure out his future, that he couldn't have both. But the caption, I whispered, sometimes you miss the old days. Her face went pale. He told me, she said slowly, that posting it would help him process things. I didn't realize he meant publicly, or that he didn't warn you. I put my head in my hands. He let me find out on Instagram, I said. And he let you post it without telling you he intended to hurt me with it. Brooke looked sick. Jordan, I didn't know, I swear. I thought you two were in trouble because of things he said, not because of me. I believe you, I told her quietly. Her eyes filled with relief and remorse. There's more, she whispered. And I don't know if I should tell you this, but... Tell me, I said, please. He told me, she said, voice barely audible, that he wasn't sure he wanted to marry you because he missed how simple things were with me, when life felt easier. My throat burned, my eyes stung. Brooke, I said, can I ask you something honestly? She nodded. Did you want him back? Her eyes filled. At first, maybe. She wiped her cheek. But when I realized he was lying to both of us to keep us orbiting him, I felt sick. I don't want that version of him. I don't want any version of him anymore. Silence wrapped around our table. Heavy, human, heartbreaking. Jordan, she added softly, you didn't lose him. You dodged him. I let out a shaky breath. He was building two different narratives, she whispered. Yours and mine. And neither of them were true. I nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me. She reached across the table, a quick, unsure gesture, and touched my hand. No woman deserves to go through this, she said, especially not you. The moment I left the cafe, I knew exactly what I needed to do. When I got home, Lucas was already there, sitting on the couch, hands clasped, eyes red, either from tears or from rehearsing them. Jordan, he said immediately, we need to talk about this misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, I said, setting down my keys. He froze. Can we at least talk like adults about... I talked to Brooke. His face drained of color. Why would you... Because you lied to both of us, I said. You told her I was controlling. You told me she was falling apart. You invented emergencies to spend time alone with her. You fed her stories about me. You fed me stories about her. His jaw tightened. Jordan, please, you're exaggerating. You've been gaslighting me for months. He stood abruptly. No, I haven't. I got confused, okay? I was overwhelmed. Weddings are... Stop! My voice came out quiet, but sharp as glass. You emotionally cheated on me, I said. And then you lied about it, over and over. It wasn't cheating, he argued weakly. I never slept with her. You didn't need to, I said. You still chose her, every step of the way. Silence. He sank back onto the couch, defeated. So what, he whispered. You're calling it off? I already did, I said, when I posted the ring. His eyes widened. Jordan, I can fix this. We can fix this. We'll go to therapy. I'll block her. I'll do anything. You already did everything, I said gently. Everything I needed to see. He swallowed hard, his eyes shining. Everyone will think you're insane for blowing up your own wedding over a Facebook post. I almost laughed. You didn't lose me because of a Facebook post, I said. You lost me the moment you stopped choosing me. He didn't follow me when I turned toward the bedroom. Didn't plead. Didn't shout. He just sat there, staring at the floor like a man who finally realizes the house he burned down is his own. On my phone, a new notification pinged. Payment received. Karen H. has paid $8,500 for your listing. The ring was officially gone, and so was he. People assume the worst part of ending an engagement is the moment you finally say, "It's over." They're wrong. The worst part is what comes after, when the dust settles and you have to sit with everything you ignored for months, all the truths you rationalized away, and every red flag you folded neatly into origami excuses. The week after I ended things with Lucas was a blur of logistics and disbelief. Canceling vendors, mailing apology cards, requesting refunds that would never come, packing his things into quiet cardboard boxes. And each time I taped one shut, I found myself wondering how long I'd been living inside someone else's fantasy while losing my grip on my own reality. By the 7th day, Lucas had moved back in with his mother temporarily. The house felt bigger, but not emptier, more like I'd reclaimed the air I didn't realize I'd stopped breathing. Then, unexpectedly, Linda called. I almost didn't answer. But I did. Her voice was soft, stripped of the frantic energy it had the day the post went viral. "Jordan," she said, "can we talk?" I hesitated. "Of course." "I want to apologize," she said. "Not for Lucas. He needs to own that. But for not seeing how unhappy he was making you. For not questioning the stories he was telling me." "It wasn't your responsibility," I said gently. "He told everyone different versions." She exhaled heavily. I think Lucas has been afraid of commitment for longer than any of us realized. When his father and I divorced, he was in college. He was dating Brooke then. Everything felt safe, uncomplicated. I'm not excusing him, but he's clinging to who he used to be, I finished. "Yes," she whispered. "The past is safe because it's already survived. The future is terrifying because it demands something real." Her honesty ached in a place I didn't know was still bruised. "He needs therapy," she said softly. "I've told him that for years. But he's good at convincing himself he's fine as long as someone else is willing to believe him." I let the words sit between us. Then Linda said something that stunned me. "I'm grateful," she said, "that he didn't marry you before this side of him came out." I closed my eyes. My throat tightened. "I am too," I whispered. Before we hung up, she added, "Jordan, you didn't ruin anything. You revealed it." When the call ended, I cried, not because I was sad about the breakup, but because someone finally said aloud the truth I'd been holding alone. A few days later, Brooke messaged me again. "Just wanted you to know, I blocked him. And I'm sorry again. For all of it." I didn't hate her. I never had. We were both orbiting a planet he'd built out of half-truths and wishful thinking. But the real confirmation came from someone unexpected. Blake, one of Lucas's old college roommates. He reached out after hearing everything. "Jordan, what happened between you two? Because this isn't the first time Lucas has pulled something like this." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" I typed. His reply came in a flood. In college, whenever a relationship got serious, he'd start flirting with someone else, creating jealousy, making the girl look crazy for reacting, then acting confused when it all blew up. I always thought he'd outgrow it. I guess he didn't. I stared at that message for a long time. It didn't hurt. It clarified. Lucas hadn't changed. He'd just gotten better at performing innocence. The ring sale developed a strange life of its own. People whispered about it at bars. It got referenced in group chats I wasn't part of. A friend texted me, "Girl, did you know you're the Facebook ring girl now?" Apparently selling an engagement ring while the man still thinks he's engaged made for excellent local folklore. And honestly, I didn't mind. That label said something clear. I refused to be manipulated quietly. Anyone who saw me as too dramatic or too harsh for drawing a boundary this loud was someone I'd never want near my life anyway. I didn't expect to start dating again. Not for a while. Not after all this. But life has a strange way of offering peace exactly when you stop looking for it. I met Matt at a friend's dinner party. A marketing manager with a dry sense of humor, a calm aura, and a brutal honesty I immediately respected. When I eventually told him the full story, every messy detail, he didn't flinch. He didn't call me petty or crazy or dramatic. He just said, "If private conversations don't work, public boundaries will. Good on you for knowing the difference." It wasn't romantic, it was respectful, and that felt better than any romance I'd had in years. We're not serious yet. We're careful, clear, communicative, two grown adults moving slowly. Novel, I know. As for Lucas, he tried once to contact me a month later. One message. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. From what I've heard, he's been in therapy, trying to work on himself, which I